Who could have foreseen that this single moment would transform my entire existence? It was merely a typical day until I stepped into that room. As I caught sight of the door ajar, a stirring within me began to unfold. In mere seconds, I could have chosen to retreat and dismiss it. Yet I stood my ground. In that fleeting moment, as the truth unfolded before my eyes, I understood that nothing would ever return to its former state. Indeed, I bear the blame in this tale, for I was the one who ignited the spark and the one who failed to extinguish it. Once upon a time, George found himself immersed in the hustle and bustle of his workplace. The house lay in stillness, yet I could discern the soft whispers of sounds drifting down from the upper floor. In the quiet confines of his room, Elliot found himself immersed in thought. In the beginning, it hardly registered with me. In this fleeting instant, a young man finds himself adrift in the depths of his own imagination. Yet, perhaps a warm cup of coffee would be to his liking. A small exchange could be quite delightful. As I ascended the stairs, I pondered the source of the mysterious sounds echoing around me. As I approached his room, I observed that the door was ever so slightly open. I inhaled deeply, ready to call out to him, but then my gaze fell upon Elliot. There he was, perched upon his bed, a laptop resting comfortably on his lap. The luminous screen illuminated his face with a soft, enchanting glow. His hands danced in the air, and at first, I believed he was captivated by something thrilling. Perhaps an exhilarating action film. As I took another step, shifting my perspective, a wave of cold dread washed over me, leaving my face pale. In that instant, clarity washed over me, revealing the true nature of Elliot's actions. As my gaze fell upon the reflection on the screen, an icy wave surged through me. I was taken by surprise. I found myself reluctant to witness this unfold. Elliot hurriedly gathered himself, his fingers racing to turn down the volume on his laptop. Alas, the moment had passed. The moment had come and gone, etched in the fabric of time. As our gazes intertwined, a vivid flush crept across his face, the embarrassment in his eyes unmistakable. My apologies. He faltered, his gaze drifting elsewhere. I stood there as if time had stopped around me. I hesitated at the door. I began my tale, yet I found myself lost, unsure of the message I sought to convey. A peculiar warmth enveloped me. Embarrassment washed over me, yet my thoughts swirled like a tempest, elusive and just out of reach. With a swift motion, I exited the room, my heart racing wildly within my chest. I pressed my hands to my face, seeking to calm the storm within as I steadied my breath. What on earth was that? I softly murmured to myself. What had I just woven into the tapestry of my life? What had led me to be so reckless? Was I truly the sole one to blame in this tale? Cease this, Darlene, I admonished myself firmly, yet the turmoil within me was ignited by far more than merely what had unfolded before my eyes. Elliot had reached the age of 23. He had outgrown his childhood, yet, at 47, I was a woman who had navigated through my own tapestry of shame in life. In a moment unlike any I had ever encountered, the weight of shame washed over me, familiar and undeniable. Indeed, I remained motionless in the hallway, my heart pounding fiercely. As I ran my fingers through my hair, attempting to gather my thoughts, Elliot suddenly appeared in the doorway. He deftly adjusted the collar of his shirt. He cleared his throat, keeping his eyes averted. Darlene, I must apologize. I believed I had shut the door, he murmured, his voice wavering yet earnest. I swiftly turned my gaze, shaking my head in quiet dismissal. No, my friend, it is I who should extend my sincerest apologies. I ought to have rapped upon the door before stepping inside. I spoke quickly, uncertain of what other words might come to mind. Stillness, yet this silence held a weight unlike any other. For years, we called that house our home, yet this moment marked the very first time our gazes intertwined in such a profound way. It was the first moment when an undeniable tension hung in the air between us. It's time for me to venture downstairs and begin crafting a delightful meal for dinner. I spoke swiftly, pivoting up the stairs. My voice quivered, yet I endeavored to maintain my composure. Elliot remained silent. He watched me intently, his gaze lingering as if he were attempting to unravel a mystery in his mind. Just before the momentous events unfolded between Elliot and me, be sure to join my channel for more captivating tales. Activate your notifications and immerse yourself in this tale until the very last word. I assure you, a thrilling adventure awaits just around the corner. Up until that fateful evening, silence enveloped us like a thick fog. Words were absent, texts remained unsent, and our eyes avoided each other's gaze, leaving no room for even the slightest exchange. Yet, in that hush, a quiet promise lingered, hinting that nothing would return to its former state. At dinner, we gathered around the same table, yet our eyes dared not meet. The solitary sound echoed in the air, a gentle clinking of silverware against our plates. We gathered to share our thoughts and lighten the atmosphere. We were both aware of it, yet. As the night unfolded and the days followed, all appeared to be as it should. Though beneath the surface, nothing was truly as it seemed. The quiet between us thickened, weaving an unseen tension that pulsed with intensity. And then, on a fateful afternoon, Elliot took a seat beside me. I noticed the flicker of uncertainty in his gaze. Yet it was evident that he yearned to mend what was broken. Darlene, once upon a time, not long ago, I found myself in a rather embarrassing situation, alas. It was never my intention for circumstances to unfold in such a manner. I sincerely hope this doesn't cast a shadow over what we have together, he spoke. His voice trembling yet filled with genuine intent. Once upon a time, in a world filled with endless possibilities, there existed a singular entity, a being of profound depth and intrigue. This entity embarked on a journey, weaving through the tapestry of life, gathering tales and experiences that would captivate the hearts and minds of many. Each moment was a thread, each encounter a vibrant color, painting a narrative rich with emotion and wisdom. The essence of this journey was not just in the destination, but in the stories that unfolded along the way, inviting all to listen and dream. Inhale deeply. Regardless of how peculiar and unforeseen this situation was, I had to ensure he felt comfortable. I smiled, gave a slight shrug, and said, "Oh, Elliot, trust me, throughout the years, I've encountered my fair share of moments that left me blushing." Then, I wove a tapestry of those moments and shared them with him. His smile softened and he nodded, the flush of embarrassment gradually lifting. In that fleeting instant, it felt as though the weight of our unspoken conflict had dissipated. Yet beneath the surface, I understood that the storm still brewed within. Though the world around us appeared to be brightening, this exchange had utterly dissolved the barriers that once defined our connection. And I could sense it. What lay ahead was destined to unfold in ways unimaginable. Elliot released a soft chuckle, his eyes drifting down to the table. "Well, I suppose we still do," he remarked. Softly. I cast a subtle frown and shifted my gaze toward him. "What do you imply?" I inquired, a hint of intrigue slipping into my voice. For just a moment, his expression transformed, as if a sudden revelation struck him, had uttered words that were now beyond his grasp. He gently rubbed the... He paused, feeling the weight at the back of his neck, caught in a moment of hesitation. Yet, the journey had begun, and now there was no turning back. He had to press on. He inhaled deeply, then averted his gaze as he whispered under his breath, "I have perceived you in a similar light. Once upon a time, you simply..." I was unaware of it. A surge of energy coursed through me, igniting every nerve with a vibrant intensity. I paused, caught in a fleeting moment. "What is it that you seek?" I murmured softly as the heaviness of his words enveloped me. Elliot's face burned with color, yet he pressed on undeterred. There was a secret I held close, one I never dared to share, wrapped in the shadows of my embarrassment, yet it lingered in my mind, never truly fading away. Indeed, it was a cherished secret, a thought that lingered in my mind like a whisper in the night. My heart raced with fervor, a peculiar warmth enveloped me, that unfamiliar feeling whispering that something had shifted within. Elliot's words carried the weight of a revelation. They broke apart every final barrier that stood between us. As my gaze fell upon him, his gaze was fixed on me as well. And at this point, we both understood that this was far from a typical exchange. The atmosphere in the room had grown dense. From that day forward, everything changed. All was transformed. There had always been a chasm between us, a silent barrier that held us at bay, yet now, it seemed as though that boundary had entirely dissolved, slipping away unnoticed. In the unfolding chapters of my life, I found myself dedicating more and more moments to Elliot, engaging in what appeared to be trivial exchanges, yet they held a deeper significance. Yet, in truth, each moment only intensified the strain that lingered between us. Once, we found ourselves sitting side by side, sharing moments over movies, a stark contrast to the distance we once maintained. Yet an invisible thread wove itself between us, a silent understanding that lingered in the air, felt deeply but left unspoken. At times, as Elliot rested his arm on the couch and my hand lightly grazed his leg, or when our laughter danced together in the air, an unfamiliar sensation stirred within me. Yet I chose to push it aside and not dwell on it. On a restless night, slumber eluded me. I lay in bed, caught in a restless dance, unable to find solace as the turmoil within me stirred endlessly. Only a single thought occupied my mind. Once upon a time, in a world filled with wonder, there existed a word, Elliot. This simply cannot continue. I found it essential to establish a boundary. Should he harbor any feelings for me, I had to voice it clearly and bring an end to that notion. I rose from my slumber, leaving the warmth of my bed behind. My heart raced wildly. Yet my feet had already carried me to Elliot's room. The door stood ajar, a sliver of dim light spilling out to softly illuminate the space within. Upon crossing the threshold, my eyes fell upon him. He lay in slumber, yet at that instant, my gaze wandered elsewhere. They were captivated by something beyond, something grand. My breath hitched. My body came to a standstill for a brief moment. Witnessing him in that state unleashed a tempest within me. It was something I was never meant to witness. In that moment, I felt an undeniable pull. A whisper urging me to turn back, yet I pressed on, ignoring the instinct that begged me to retreat. For a brief moment, I lingered, grappling with the whirlwind of emotions swirling within me before I finally stepped back. Deep within me, a force stirred, one that I struggled to keep at bay. Yet I knew I had to turn a blind eye to it. I returned to my room and lay down. Yet everything felt different now. That night, I was blissfully unaware of the twists and turns that awaited me. Regardless of my efforts, I found myself unable to resist the deepening bond with Elliot. As the days unfolded, the lines between us faded further, and the attraction we felt deepened with each moment. It was a moment I hadn't fully grasped until it was too late, and yet, one truth stood clear: retreat was no longer an option. And then, as if scripted by fate, Elliot returned home in that very manner. He was inebriated. The clatter of the door, the items he disturbed, the cacophony could have stirred George from his slumber. Yet I understood the struggle he faced in waking. Thus, I swiftly emerged from my room and made my way to Elliot. Before I knew it, I found myself caught up in the whirlwind, with barely a moment to adjust my attire. Positioned right beside him, Elliot's gaze drifted, a subtle smile dancing upon his lips. "Darlene, do you truly exist?" He spoke in hushed tones. His words flowed unevenly, touched by the drink, yet carried a genuine weight. I inhaled deeply and seized his arm. "Elliot, my friend, you simply cannot ascend those stairs in this manner. Silence is essential." Yet, Elliot's gaze was firmly fixed upon my face. He smiled gently, his eyes wandering over me with a lingering warmth. "Ah, the truth is undeniable. Your beauty shines brightly. Have you always carried this essence, or was it simply hidden from my view until now?" For a fleeting moment, I found myself suspended in time, but then, with a swift resolve, I gathered my wits and pressed on. "Elliot, that will do. Gather round in the kitchen. Allow me to brew you a delightful cup of coffee." With a gentle pace, I guided him toward the kitchen. I was attempting to bring him back to clarity, yet with Elliot's piercing gaze and the words spilling from his lips, I felt a part of me begin to unravel as well. Elliot settled into the chair as I busied myself with the coffee, but in an unexpected twist, the cup slipped from his grasp. Hands cascaded and spilled onto the counter. "Ah, Elliot, you must tread more cautiously," I murmured swiftly, striving to tidy up the chaos. Yet, Elliot merely offered a gentle smile. "Have you always possessed this sweetness?" With a flurry of movement, I tidied up the kitchen. We had to move on from this place. George lay peacefully upstairs. Yet with Elliot in such a condition, silence was paramount. "Very well, we shall ascend to the upper floor, but be quiet," I cautioned, wrapping my arm around his and leading him toward the stairs. As we entered his room, his movements wavered even more, a dance of uncertainty unfolding before us. He found himself in a predicament, needing to change his clothes, yet feeling too disoriented to manage it alone. Initially, I felt the urge to retreat, but as I witnessed his struggle with the buttons of his shirt, a natural impulse took over, and I found my fingers moving to assist him in that moment of vulnerability. At that moment, Elliot's breathing began to slow. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension between us. The stillness deepened the intensity. I was fully aware. As I went about my activities, a curious oblivion enveloped me, leaving me unaware of the way Elliot's gaze had shifted, revealing a new layer of intrigue. And this was one of those moments, a moment etched in time, one we could never reclaim. Elliot paused, caught in a moment of uncertainty as he changed his clothes. He allowed his hands to drop to his sides, fixing his gaze upon me. In that moment, I became aware of the rapid pace of my breath. The silence enveloped the room, thick and palpable, as if the very air conspired to weigh down each breath. "I've decided to step away from this game. Darlene." His voice began as a gentle whisper, yet it resonated with unwavering conviction. I gazed at him, my eyes unwavering. My heart raced with fervor. But what was Elliot attempting to convey? "Are you?" he added, his voice taking on a richer tone. "We crossed paths just that once, and that was all there was to it. It simply doesn't cross your mind. It lingers in your thoughts just before you drift into slumber." A chill coursed through my body, prompting me to take a hesitant step back, yet my feet seemed anchored to the ground. "Elliot, this isn't right," I said, yet my voice quivered. Elliot's lips curled into a subtle smile, yet it held a hint of mischief, far from innocent. "We have long since crossed the threshold of determining what is right, Darlene. Cease the self-deception. With a deliberate movement he advanced, taking one step forward, then another. He was so near now that I could sense his breath brushing against my skin. He extended his hand, his fingers brushing softly against my cheek. I felt the urge to turn my gaze, yet something within me held firm, for I understood, in the depths of my heart, that his words rang true. And then, Elliot's lips brushed against mine. In the stillness, amidst the palpable tension, lay the key to it all, concealed within that fleeting moment. The thoughts swirling in my mind gradually hushed all my uncertainties, retreating into soft murmurs as I surrendered to Elliot's presence. And the truth was, I had never desired to. My hands quivered, yet I remained steadfast, captivated by the fierce determination shining in Elliot's eyes. I understood that all secrets had been laid bare. I inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of the moment, and gently let the straps of my clothing slip from my shoulders. "You're right, Elliot," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "It's time to put an end to this game." As I drew nearer, I settled back onto the bed, enveloped in the moment. My heart raced within me, yet retreating was no longer a choice I could entertain. Elliot gently leaned closer, his gaze locking onto mine for a brief moment before a smile spread across his face. "Fear not," he urged, his voice enveloping her like a comforting embrace. "All is as it should be." I turned my gaze, a chill coursing through my veins. Deep down, I recognized the truth I couldn't voice. The length of time I had been anticipating this very moment was etched in my heart. Yet, the words flowed from my lips, unstoppable and free. "Elliot, I find myself feeling a touch of fear." I mentioned that my breathing was irregular due to a couple of significant matters. "Elliot, I find myself feeling a touch of fear," I spoke, my breath faltering. Weighed down by a handful of significant matters, Elliot smiled, brushing aside my words as though they delighted him. Perhaps it was due to the effects of the drink he had consumed. Elliot leaned in close, his voice barely a whisper. "George mustn't wake up." I understood his meaning. Silence was necessary. Uncertainty washed over me, a colossal wave within, urging me to hold back the sound that threatened to escape my lips. Elliot gazed at me and spoke softly, something along the lines of, "I know, my dear, everything is wonderful, and so are you." What was it that he truly understood? It seems he had an inkling and truly grasped my essence. In a moment of surrender, I found myself drawn to the darkness behind my eyelids. With my hands gripping the sheets tightly, I felt my body tremble and spasm, a vivid dance of tension and unease. I pressed my hands against my mouth, stifling any sound that might escape. Elliot found himself in a haze, lost to the world around him, his worries fading into the background as he surrendered to the intoxicating embrace of oblivion. Indeed, this was having a significant impact on me. The thrill of the occasion mingled with all that surrounded it, creating an undeniable sense of something monumental on the horizon. Elliot found himself in a haze, weary and gasping for air, the effects of the night weighing heavily upon him. I exclaimed, "Elliot, you're turning red, and we must move quickly." Elliot replied, "All right," he agreed, yet he continued down the same path, further and further, endlessly. Another contraction washed over me, and in that moment, I felt a profound indifference to everything else. I had lost touch with who I truly was. I shut my eyes and whispered, "Whatever you desire, Elliot." Elliot must have found joy in it, for he surrendered himself completely. He released all his hold, surrendering entirely. And that was overwhelming. The fire within me burned too fiercely. With gentle care, I placed Elliot in his bed, tucking him in snugly. And then I secured the door to his chamber. In the midst of a bustling day, I yearned for the soothing embrace of a quiet shower. A moment to unwind and let the world fade away. Uncertainty loomed over me, a veil of mystery shrouding the events that had just unfolded and those yet to come. As I stood under the cascading water, my mind wandered to the thoughts swirling within me. Yet a sense of nervousness and unease lingered in the air. And yet, as I emerged, a newfound clarity enveloped my thoughts. Strangely, I found myself enveloped in a sense of tranquility. There was no room for anger within me, for my body was as at ease as my wandering thoughts. In the stillness of the night, I adorned myself in quietude, made my way to the sanctuary of my bed, and surrendered to slumber, as though the world outside had remained untouched by the events that transpired. Yet, the reality is that this was merely a fleeting spark, a surge of wild longing. But life was never that straightforward. And this was not going to remain straightforward either. The tale continued beyond this point. It simply wasn't possible. Grander events unfolded, deeper experiences. In the end, George was destined to uncover the whole truth. The tale continues to unfold. Be sure to follow and subscribe, so you won't miss the unfolding tale ahead. Activate notifications and share your thoughts in the comments. It keeps you a step ahead in weaving these tales. Your support is the heartbeat of this journey. And if you've journeyed this far, I extend my heartfelt gratitude for your attentive ear.